Connecticut is the first state in the nation to answer President Barack Obama's call to raise the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. Governor Dannel Malloy signing the bill at Cafe Beauregard in New Britain, the same place in which he had a sandwich with President Obama when he came to the state to campaign for the minimum wage hike earlier this month. The governor is saying bringing the minimum wage up by 2017 will lift people out of poverty.
What we want to make sure is that men and women in our state who work 40 hours a week do not live in poverty and have the opportunity to raise their families as we ourselves would want to raise our own. That's what this is about.
But Republicans say this is the latest move by state Democrats to make Connecticut uncompetitive when it comes to attracting businesses.
But it also means that in the wealthiest nation on earth, nobody who works full-time should have to live in poverty. Nobody. Not here in America. Now, it was 1 year ago today, that I first asked Congress to raise the federal minimum wage. A federal minimum wage that in real terms is worth about 20% less than it was when Ronald Reagan took office. 20% less, a fifth less. So this afternoon I've invited some of the folks who would see a raise if we raise that federal minimum wage. They happen to join me here at the White House. And like most workers in their situation, they're not teenagers. They look like teenagers. Some of them are very young looking. But they're not teenagers taking on their first job. They're adults. Average age is 35 years old. A majority of lower wage jobs are held by women. Many of them have children that they're supporting. These are Americans who work full-time, often to support a family. And if the minimum wage had kept pace with our economic productivity, they'd already be getting paid well over $10 an hour. Instead, the minimum wage is still just $7.25. And when Congress refuses to raise it, it loses value because there's a little bit of inflation. Everything else starts costing a little bit more, even though inflation's been pretty low. It's still costing a little bit more each year. That means each dollar isn't going as far, and they've got a little bit less. So over the past year, the failure of Congress to act was the equivalent of a $200 pay cut for these folks. For a typical minimum wage worker, that's a month worth of groceries, maybe 2 months worth of electricity. It makes a big difference for a lot of families. Now, the good news is that in the years since I first asked Congress to raise the minimum wage, 6 states went ahead and passed laws to raise theirs. We appreciate that. You got more states and cities and counties that are taking steps to raise their minimum wage as we speak.